There are people who show everything they feel, and then there are avoidants, individuals whose deepest desires remain hidden behind silence, distance, and self-control. But the truth is this: the more they hide, the more they reveal. And when it comes to intimacy, there are 5 sexual secrets they never want you to discover, because each one exposes the raw emotional depth they fight so hard to conceal. Sexual desire overwhelms an avoidant far more than most people ever realize. And the reason it feels so intense for them is because it activates layers of their inner world they rarely allow anyone to touch. On the surface, they might look calm, composed, or even uninterested. But beneath that controlled exterior is a flood of emotions they have spent years learning how to contain. Desire for them isn't a gentle feeling that rises slowly. It arrives suddenly, powerfully, and with a level of psychological force that threatens the delicate balance they maintain inside themselves. Most avoidants grew up learning to manage their emotions by reducing them, minimizing them, or hiding them altogether. They learned early that feelings, especially strong ones, could create chaos, conflict, or vulnerability. So when sexual attraction appears, it doesn't feel like something exciting or natural. It feels like a disruption, a crack in the emotional armor they rely on to survive. This overwhelming intensity is something they don't talk about, because acknowledging it would expose just how deeply they are affected. Attraction doesn't touch only the body for an avoidant. It touches the unconscious mind. It stirs up old fears of losing control, old memories of situations where closeness felt dangerous or overwhelming, and old instincts that tell them emotional independence must be protected at all costs. When they feel sexually drawn to someone, their body moves in one direction, but their mind begins pulling them in another. Their desire says yes, but their internal history says, "Be careful." This inner conflict is so powerful that it often appears as withdrawal, silence, distance, or hesitation. Not because they don't want you, but because they want you so much that the intensity feels like too much to bear. What most people misunderstand is that avoidants are not emotionally cold. They are emotionally defended. The stronger the desire, the stronger the instinct to protect themselves becomes. This is why someone might see an avoidant show interest one moment and pull away the next. The shift isn't randomness or manipulation. It's the direct result of the emotional alarm system that activates whenever something triggers deep attraction. Sexual desire touches the part of them that wants connection, but fears what connection will cost. They fear losing themselves, losing their autonomy, or being consumed by someone else's expectations. So instead of leaning into the desire, they step back to regain control. Their retreat isn't a rejection. It's an attempt to stabilize themselves before the feelings get even stronger. For an avoidant, desire creates vulnerability, and vulnerability feels like exposure. They are suddenly aware of how much someone affects them, how much they are drawn to someone's presence, touch, voice, or energy. This awareness makes them feel unprotected. The same desire that excites others often terrifies them because it reveals what they cannot hide, that someone matters to them, that someone has access to a part of them they rarely show. So they do what they have always done when emotions feel too large. They regulate by creating distance. It gives them space to breathe, to push the feeling back down, to restore the emotional walls that keep them safe. But here is the paradox. The more overwhelmed they feel, the stronger their attraction becomes. It creates a push and pull inside them, where their longing heightens. At the same time, their fear intensifies. When they like someone casually, they behave normally. But when they want someone deeply, their behavior becomes unpredictable. They feel exposed, and that exposure triggers old instincts to hide, retreat, or suppress. Even during moments of desire, their mind is scanning for signs of risk, signs of emotional entanglement, signs that they might lose the independence they have worked so hard to maintain. What makes all of this so complex is that they will never say these things out loud. They will never admit that someone makes their heart race or their mind spiral. They will never reveal that sexual attraction brings up fears they don't know how to articulate. Instead, they choose silence over confession, distance over vulnerability, and self-control over expression. Yet behind that calm exterior is a person experiencing far more intensity than anyone around them imagines. To understand an avoidant's sexual desire is to understand that their withdrawal is not a lack of feeling, but the evidence of just how deeply they feel. Their desire is powerful, overwhelming, and frightening, not because it is small, but because it is enormous. And that is the secret they hope no one ever discovers. Sex makes an avoidant feel exposed in ways they rarely talk about, because for them, intimacy is never just a physical act. It is a psychological doorway, one that opens without their permission and reveals parts of themselves they have spent their entire life trying to control. While many people see sex as connection, excitement, pleasure, or bonding, an avoidant often experiences it as a moment where the emotional walls they depend on begin to soften. This softening does not feel natural to them. It feels like a loss of control, a dilation of their private inner world that makes them feel suddenly visible in ways they don't know how to manage. The body relaxes, the heart opens, the mind quiets, and for a moment they are no longer protected by distance or detachment. That moment of openness can feel terrifying. To understand why sex makes them feel exposed, you have to understand the emotional architecture behind their defenses. Avoidants learned early that closeness can overwhelm, intimacy can suffocate, and vulnerability can lead to pain. So they built a system that keeps people at a manageable distance. This system is their safety. It is how they survive relationships and emotional tension. But sex disrupts this entire system because physical intimacy bypasses the mind. It reaches into the unconscious without warning. Even if they are mentally guarded, the body responds instinctively. That response softens the very defenses they depend on. In that softening, they feel naked in a deeper way than physical nakedness. They feel emotionally revealed. This is why after sex, an avoidant may suddenly become quiet, distant, or internally conflicted. The moment the physical closeness ends, the mind rushes back in to re-establish control. They might overthink what just happened, question their emotions, or wonder whether the experience made them too vulnerable. They replay moments in their head, not because they dislike you, but because the intimacy reached a part of them they do not normally access. It brought feelings to the surface they don't know how to sit with. Instead of relaxing into the connection, their system tells them to retreat, to restore space, to rebuild the emotional walls. The exposure they feel isn't about insecurity in the typical sense. It's about the fear that someone now has emotional access to them. Sex reveals desire, affection, longing, and emotional attraction, things avoidants are not comfortable displaying openly. They worry that if you see how much they want you, you might expect more from them emotionally. They fear the possibility of dependence, closeness, or emotional demands they may not know how to meet. To them, intimacy is a place where the lines between self and other blur, and that blurring feels dangerous. It threatens their autonomy. It threatens the internal boundaries they have guarded for years. So instead of moving closer after sex, they instinctively take a step back to regain their sense of self. During intimacy, something else happens that makes them feel exposed. They experience genuine emotional presence. In the heat of desire, they are forced into the moment, They feel instead of analyze, they connect instead of avoid, and they open instead of protect. This moment of being emotionally present can feel unsettling because it contradicts the emotional distance they maintain in everyday life. When the act is over, their system tries to correct the imbalance. They retreat not because the connection was meaningless, but because it was meaningful enough to unsettle the emotional equilibrium they are used to. Many people mistakenly assume that if an avoidant withdraws after sex, it means they regret it or didn't enjoy it. The truth is the opposite. They withdraw because the intimacy touched something deep. It broke through the defenses they used to keep their inner world intact. It reached the part of them that craves closeness but fears the cost of it. Sexual intimacy awakens emotions that have no language in their everyday life. They don't know how to express the tenderness they feel, the affection that rises, or the longing that catches them by surprise. Their instinct is not to embrace these feelings, but to regulate them. Regulation often comes in the form of distance. The exposure they fear is not about physical flaws or performance. It is about the possibility of being seen, truly seen. In intimacy, they cannot hide their desire, their softness, their emotional hunger. The masks they wear in daily life fall away, and when the moment ends, they rush to put the mask back on before you notice too much. Their greatest fear is not that you will reject them, but that you will see the depth of their feelings before they are ready to accept those feelings themselves. An avoidant's inconsistency in intimacy is one of the most misunderstood parts of their behavior, especially when it comes to sexual or romantic attraction. People often interpret it as mixed signals, emotional immaturity, or manipulative games. But what looks like unpredictability from the outside is actually a highly conditioned survival reflex on the inside. Their attraction pulls them forward, but their fear pulls them back, and they live in the middle of that tension every time someone gets close. This inconsistency isn't a strategy or a tactic. It is a deeply ingrained pattern formed long before you ever met them, and it activates strongest when their feelings intensify. Avoidants grew up learning that emotional closeness comes with a cost. Sometimes it meant losing independence, sometimes it meant feeling smothered, and sometimes it meant disappointment or rejection. These early experiences taught them that the safest way to navigate relationships is to control the level of intimacy. They step in when it feels safe, and they step back when the emotional temperature rises. This creates a pattern that looks confusing from the outside. Warmth followed by distance, engagement followed by withdrawal, desire followed by hesitation. But for them, this pattern is the only way to stay emotionally regulated. The moment an avoidant feels a surge of desire, longing, or emotional connection, their nervous system interprets it as a threat, not because the emotion itself is dangerous, but because the vulnerability that comes with it reminds them of situations where closeness felt overwhelming. Their internal system is wired to keep them safe by limiting exposure. The intensity of their feelings becomes the trigger for distance. If they feel too much, they create space. If they care too deeply, they unplug. If they sense the possibility of emotional entanglement, they retreat. And they do this not to hurt the other person, but to stabilize themselves. This is why you'll see moments where an avoidant is fully present, affectionate and sincere, followed by moments where they suddenly become unreachable or emotionally flat. They can shift from being deeply engaged to needing hours or days of silence. They can go from wanting closeness to craving solitude. And they rarely announce this shift because they often don't fully understand it themselves. It's an unconscious reaction, not a deliberate choice. Their withdrawal is a way to lower emotional intensity back to a level they can manage. It is a form of self-soothing, even if it looks like rejection from the outside. Another layer of this inconsistency comes from the way avoidants process emotions. They do not process feelings in real time. They need distance to understand what they feel, to regain emotional clarity, and to recenter themselves before engaging again. This creates a rhythm that feels like emotional whiplash to anyone who interprets closeness as a sign of stability. When the avoidant steps back, it is not because the connection was unimportant. It is because the connection was significant enough to activate their protective instincts. The inconsistency also shows up in their communication. They may have a deep, intimate conversation one night and then appear distant or reserved the next day. They might initiate affection and then avoid it later. They may express desire and then act indifferent when emotions get too close to the surface. Their behavior follows the rise and fall of their internal comfort level. When their emotions are manageable, they lean in. When their emotions feel too big, they step out to reduce the pressure. It is a cycle that repeats itself, not because they are unreliable, but because their nervous system is trying to maintain equilibrium. This pattern intensifies when they meet someone they genuinely care about. Ironically, the more they like someone, the more distance they may create. They might fear becoming dependent, losing autonomy, or being expected to show emotions they don't know how to express. This fear makes them hesitate even when the desire is strong. It makes them pause even when the attraction is undeniable. And the person they are drawn to often becomes the person they pull away from the most, not out of disinterest, but because the feelings are too real. To someone on the receiving end, the inconsistency feels personal. It feels like being chosen and unchosen, wanted and avoided. But inside the avoidant, it is not personal at all. It is an internal battle between longing and self-protection, between the part of them that wants closeness and the part that fears the consequences of that closeness. Their behavior mirrors the conflict happening within them, and understanding this removes the illusion of manipulation. It reveals a person trying to navigate emotional territory that has always felt unsafe. They are not inconsistent because their feelings are shallow. They are inconsistent because their feelings are strong enough to awaken fears they've spent a lifetime avoiding. An avoidant's sexual attraction is rooted far more in the mind than in the body, and understanding this changes everything about how they behave in intimacy. Unlike people who respond primarily to physical cues, touch, beauty, seduction, or flirtation, an avoidant is drawn in through psychological resonance. Their desire doesn't ignite instantly. It slowly forms in the quiet space where their mind feels safe, understood, and unpressured. To them, attraction is not just about chemistry, it is about the emotional environment surrounding the connection. If the environment feels chaotic, demanding, or invasive, their desire shuts down. But if the environment feels calm, respectful of boundaries, and emotionally grounded, their desire deepens with surprising intensity. The avoidant's mind is always scanning for emotional signals. They pick up on tone, energy, pacing, and emotional demands more than they pick up on physical advances. What excites most people often alarms them because overt intensity threatens their inner stability. Conversely, what may seem subtle or gentle to others feels deeply intimate to them. A calm presence, an emotionally neutral conversation, or a moment of shared silence can create more attraction than any explicit sexual cue. This is because their desire grows in spaces where they don't feel overwhelmed. They need room to breathe, room to hold onto themselves, and room to observe without being pushed into emotional exposure too quickly. The avoidant is attracted to people who carry a sense of inner stability. If you are comfortable with yourself, they feel more comfortable with you. If you don't chase them or pressure them, they feel safer around you. If you maintain your own emotional independence, they experience desire without fear of losing their autonomy. Their attraction deepens through moments where they don't feel evaluated, controlled, or suffocated. It grows when they feel the other person is not trying to extract intimacy from them, but simply sharing space without expectations. This creates the psychological conditions where their defenses soften naturally instead of being challenged. Because avoidants rely heavily on mental interpretation, they need to feel emotionally unthreatened before they can access their deeper sexual self. If they sense emotional chaos or unpredictability, their desire becomes muted. But when they sense emotional restraint and subtlety, their inner world begins to open. They feel less pressure to perform, less pressure to reveal emotion, and less pressure to explain themselves. This freedom allows their sexuality to emerge from a genuine place instead of a reactive one. For them, desire is something that must flow naturally, not something that can be forced. This is why avoidants often appear more passionate, attentive, and emotionally available with people who give them space. When their mind feels respected, their heart and body follow. They begin to show another side of themselves, a side that is surprisingly affectionate, surprisingly playful, and deeply attuned to the other person's energy. They show this only when they feel emotionally grounded. When they feel that their autonomy is not being threatened, their attraction becomes stronger and more focused. Their desire is not scattered or impulsive. It is intentional and anchored. The avoidance attraction is also deeply tied to trust. Not trust in the standard sense of reliability, but trust in emotional safety. They need to trust that the connection won't drown them, overwhelm them, or demand more than they can give. When this trust forms, their physical desire grows rapidly. They begin to crave closeness in a way they rarely allow themselves to feel. Their mind gives the body permission to want, and once that permission is granted, the avoidant becomes capable of forming an intense sexual bond. This psychological pathway to desire also means that avoidants can feel more attracted to someone who provides emotional safety than to someone who provides physical stimulation. It means they respond to subtle gestures more deeply than to overt seduction. It means their desire is fueled by authenticity, patience, and emotional calmness. Their sexuality is not chaotic or impulsive. It is thoughtful, inward, and shaped by the emotional atmosphere. When you understand this, their behavior becomes clearer. They are not withholding because they lack desire. They are withholding because desire without safety is dangerous for them. Their attraction emerges through emotional equilibrium, not emotional pressure. Their desire grows when their mind feels respected, not when their boundaries are challenged. And once they feel that rare sense of psychological safety, their sexual energy transforms from something guarded into something profoundly open, deep, and loyal. When an avoidant feels emotionally safe, something transformative happens inside them, something most people never get to see. Emotional safety is not just comfort for them. It is the key that unlocks the parts of their sexuality they keep hidden even from themselves. Most avoidants spend their lives in a state of emotional vigilance. They monitor closeness, guard their autonomy, and maintain tight control over how much of themselves they reveal. This vigilance creates an invisible tension that limits how deeply they can connect, even when they feel attraction. Safety relaxes that tension. It turns down the internal alarms and allows desire to rise from a genuine, unprotected place. When they sense that they won't be judged, overwhelmed, or pressured, their body and mind finally align instead of fighting each other. Emotional safety gives the avoidant something they rarely experience: permission. Permission to feel without being frightened by their own emotions. Permission to desire without fearing entanglement. Permission to let their guard down without risking their identity. In that permission, their sexuality becomes fuller, richer, and more expressive. They stop rationing closeness and start allowing themselves to be present. Instead of overthinking every touch or every moment of vulnerability, they begin to trust the feeling itself. This trust is what lets them open up in ways that seem impossible when they are guarded. The person who provides that safety becomes someone they want to be close to, not out of obligation, but out of genuine emotional hunger. Most people assume avoidants don't feel passion deeply, but the truth is the opposite. They feel intensely, sometimes more intensely than others, but they bury it under layers of self-protection. When safety enters the picture, the pressure behind those layers begins to release. The avoidant starts showing a side of themselves that is warm, attentive, and surprisingly devoted. They start leaning in instead of pulling away. Their desire becomes consistent instead of conflicted. They initiate connection because they no longer feel threatened by it. Their body begins to respond more openly because the fear of being consumed or controlled is no longer dominating their mind. Emotional safety also changes how they perceive intimacy. Instead of seeing it as a loss of independence, they start seeing it as a shared experience that doesn't require sacrificing who they are. This shift is monumental for them. Avoidants fear intimacy because it blurs the boundaries they need to feel stable. But when someone treats their autonomy with respect, the fear dissolves. They begin to understand that closeness doesn't have to mean surrender. It can mean choice, connection, and mutual presence. This realization makes them more willing to give, not less. It awakens the part of them that wants to merge emotionally and physically, a part they normally silence. Their sexuality becomes deeper when they feel safe because they stop performing and start expressing. They no longer engage from a place of tension or self-defense. They become more attuned to their partner's needs, more aware of emotional cues, and more comfortable sharing their own. They may become more affectionate, more physically open, and more expressive in ways that surprise even them. Safety allows them to let go of the internal narrative that intimacy is dangerous. Instead, they begin to experience it as something grounding, fulfilling, and intimate in the truest sense. Emotional safety also brings out a loyalty in avoidance that is incredibly strong. Once they feel connected without fear, they bond deeply. Their attraction becomes tied not only to the body, but to the emotional environment the other person creates. They feel drawn to the person who gives them freedom instead of pressure, presence instead of demand, acceptance instead of expectation. This bond is not easily broken because it is built on something they have rarely felt in their life, the ability to be themselves without fear of losing control. And when they experience that with someone, they often become far more devoted and consistent than anyone expects. For an avoidant, emotional safety is not just comfort, it is transformation. It unlocks the passion they suppress, the affection they hide, and the vulnerabilities they bury. It allows their sexuality to come from a place of genuine desire rather than survival instinct. And once they feel that kind of safety with someone, they reveal a level of depth, intimacy, and emotional presence that only a few people in their lifetime will ever witness. When you look beyond the avoidance distance, you begin to see a different story, one written not by indifference but by emotional complexity. Their attraction is powerful, their vulnerability is real, and their retreat is not a lack of desire but a shield built from old fears. Their inconsistency mirrors an inner conflict they never learned how to soothe, and their sexuality awakens fully only in the presence of genuine emotional safety. Understanding these hidden truths doesn't just reveal who they are, it reveals the depth of what they're capable of when they finally feel free, unpressured, and deeply seen. And once they experience that rare sense of safety with someone, they become a lover of extraordinary focus, loyalty, and intensity. The kind of connection most people search for but seldom find.